Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those books that are still probably tucked away in those cheap boxes, those discount bins, those dollar boxes at your LCS, flea market, yard sales, half-price books. Wherever you're finding your cheap comic books, these are some things I think you might be able to find based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, and most of all, things going on in the actual comics. So if you read this week's new releases, this is some stuff that might tie into some of the storylines you might be reading there, showing you some of the character first appearances, etc. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see my selection of books for this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so first up, we are going to get into the books related to the actual comics. So if you picked up your new releases this week, you gave them a read, you saw some characters you may not have seen in a while, this is some stuff that I think you might find interesting and give you some books that you can go and hunt for fun when you go out digging in those boxes this upcoming weekend. So starting off first, we're going to head on over to DC and check out the latest issue of Wonder Woman. So this is Wonder Woman number 17. You could see we have 4 generations or 4 versions of Wonder Woman shown in this book. We're not going to cover them. We are, however, going to cover a couple of the villains that did show up in here. So first off, we're going to go right here to Darkseid's daughter, the character of Grail. I think she's been underutilized over the past decade or so, and I think it's a character they should be doing more with, but hey, who am I to say? I'm not an editor over at DC, but cool design, cool character, and one that surprisingly, her book was hot once upon a time, ages ago. Now it's a book you can find actually for pretty cheap, especially if you go out there digging. Now we are going back to the grand old New 52 era of DC Comics, and with that, we are talking about Justice League number 40. I get it. It's like a cameo at best here, but still, it's it's Grail. So this is the book that most people go and pick up for Grail, because you can argue, well, we don't see her face or any of that. It's her. So there she is, talking about her father, death to Darkseid, etc. Like I said, there is a 1 in 25 incentive for this book as well. There's a second print and a combo that has the digital download. All of those worth different prices, more expensive than, say, the regular one here. But this one used to be an expensive book, or a decently expensive book. A $20 to $25 book here or there. Now, well, it's come down quite a bit from there. But that doesn't mean it's still not worth your time to go and dig for it. Yeah, copies have sold as cheap as $1.25 at auction. And you can still see the occasional, like, $10 sale. And there's a $6 sale, too. Copies listed are still looking for anywhere for as cheap as $5, and they can go up closer to 20. Depending on condition and depending on the seller. So, go out there and look for it. Maybe you can find one still. Now, this isn't the only villain in here we want to cover. We also want to cover this guy here, the Sovereign. He's a relatively new creation. And the reason why I'm covering these two is because out of all the characters in this book, most of them go way, way back, to the Golden Age, Silver Age, etc. So I can't tell you you're going to find Dr. Psycho, who he's sitting there and playing chess with. You're going to find his first for cheap, because you're not. It's a hard to find book. It's an expensive book. Even Giganta down below there, expensive to go find her first appearance. But we could find the Sovereign, because that book only goes back, a couple of years, if that. Here it is. Apparently, the idea behind the Sovereign is he's like the secret ruler, of the United States or something like that. Kind of like the power behind, the front, etc. Kind of a conspiracy theory type deal. But still, interesting character, interesting villain. This guy showed up first. Some places will tell you it was in Wonder Woman number 1 of the current run, but realistically, he showed up before that in the Wonder Woman spectacular 800th issue, which happened first. So in issue 800, which is also known for being the first appearance of her daughter, so most people go for that. They go for Trinity, but he is also present in the back of this book, because that is him here. You get a couple of pages or a couple panels where he's saying, I'll tell you the story how I got stuck here. And granted, timeline that might go back, but whatever. That's him. So this is the character. He's first showing up here in this issue 800, which, again, it was an anniversary. There's a lot of covers, and then there's incentives on top of that. Most people went for it because of Trinity, but because that Trinity thing was announced ahead of time, this book was ordered very heavily, so it is not hard to find. That said, keep an eye out for all the different covers. I'm not going to show you them all because it would be, I don't know, it's not that fun or that interesting. I'm just showing you the cover A, and you can see here there's even a second print, and then the more popular one is the cover that has Trinity on the front, with her doing that kind of weird lunge. And you can see copies as cheap as $2. The second print's only $2.27, and this one, 3 bids, got it at the $4. It's a pretty cheap book still. Asking prices might be closer to cover price in most places. You got to look out for those auctions if you really want to get the cheap ones, but I'm not telling you to go on eBay to pay for this and have to pay for shipping. I'm saying go to your shop, dig in a back issue box, because it's probably there and it's probably cheaper and probably discounted in some way. So that's all I'm talking about. And you get 2. Like I said, you get the Sovereign and you get Trinity in there. So you can stash it away with, with 2 first appearances for the price of 1. Now, with that said, that was Wonder Woman 17 for this week. Like I said, there's a lot of other characters. I thought about putting Yara Flora in there, but her first is a little bit wonky and also, debated and not that easy to find in dollar bins, but thought about that. And we could have done Cassie going back to, what was it, Wonder Woman 105 or whatever it is. Anyway, I decided against it. Maybe we'll save them for a future episode or another take, but we're going to move on from Wonder Woman to Power Girl this week. So Power Girl 17, we are going to be talking about her 2 little co-stars that are right there on the cover, but we'll show them inside the book as well. But on the cover, you can see part of her expanding side characters, supporting cast, whatever you want to call them. That's where we're looking. So first up, we're going to zoom in right here to Lilith, who is actually going by Omen and has been going by Omen for a good long while now. But originally, when the character was created, her name was Lilith Clay. She goes back a ways, all the way back before the 70s. So, granted, not much before, but still. Teen Titans number 25, the OG run from November 1969. That's where she first appeared, ending up being one of the later recruits, newer members of the team. This is Lilith Chase here. So, she's got that swinging 60s style going. Almost looks like MJ, but in a Teen Titans book. With that said, I'm only pointing this book out because that is technically her first. And she went by the name of Lilith for a while. So, it's a kind of expensive book. You're probably not finding it for cheap, but I'll give you some pricing just so you have a baseline idea of how much it costs in case you find it for cheaper than that. But you can find it for under $10 or up to $20 for more of the mid to lower grade. You're going $20 and under. Higher grade is going to cost you a bit more, and you can see there are copies listed for like 15, and you can go up to 30 for getting those better grades. Again, it's not a cheap book. I get it, and that's not the one I'm saying you'll probably find. I just wanted to give you the information so you know that was Lilith's first appearance. But eventually, she decided to switch up her name and go by the name of Omen. So, and that's what she's going by today. So, in today's comics, that's her call sign or her moniker, whatever you want to call it. She goes by Omen these days. But the first time she went by Omen was way back in 1996 in Teen Titans number 1. I think this was the 2nd volume or the 3rd volume of the title. 2nd volume, but it can be tricky because it's not just Teen Titans, and you have the new Teen Titans. The 1996 run of Teen Titans, where we got a brand new squad in here, August 1996. This is actually her, the character of Omen, and you can see, hey, Omen, what's wrong? Hooded, face covered, no connection, no guess that it's the same character from before, but it is. This book, very cheap. You can still find this out there in those boxes if you go digging. There's a lot of old DC stock, especially from the 90s. But look, copies online selling for as cheap as $3. Asking prices, well, they're looking for $5 to $8. But granted, that $8 also has free shipping, so most of that cost is the shipping. Point being, it's a book you could find. So if you want to go and look for it, go ahead and go and dig. Now, if you want to know a little bit more, because hell, it's just a character and she changed her name to Omen, and we didn't even see her face. We don't even know it's the same character. That wasn't revealed until a bunch of issues later. It was actually issue 15 is when we get that reveal in that run of Teen Titans here. So that's November 97. So a full year later, we see her mask come off, and then everybody's looking, and we find out, oh, it's Lilith, from Remember Me kind of thing. Cool. So there's the big reveal. another book you can go and find for super cheap. Nobody's digging for this or searching for this. $2 a copy sold for. I was lucky to find that one. A lot of lots sell for very cheap for runs of this title, but $4 to $7 are some asking prices. I'm just pointing it out that it's a fun book to know, and if you come across it, you know what it is. Now, outside of Omen being one of her, secondary characters, supporting cast, her friends in the title, we also got Steel here. So the newer version of Steel, not the John Henry Irons version, obviously. It's his niece, I think, Natasha. But anyway, she's also heavily featured in this title and has popped up here and there in action. She's part of the super family, if you will. But the character of Steel goes back a good while. So depending on how you want to look at this, Natasha, who is the character under the guise of Steel, she showed up way back in December of 1993 in that first issue of Steel when John Henry Irons took the moniker of Superman for a time. Remember the 4 Supermen, all of that? Yeah. So in that issue, The Reign of Tomorrow, here she is. Hey, Uncle John. There you go. So there is Natasha. That's her first appearance as herself, if you will. A book, you can find this book for cheap out there. You can go dig and find this for $1. And look, it even sells for $1 online. Meanwhile, look out for the DC Universe variant though, because look, one sold for $34.34. So if instead of the barcode or the direct sales little down there, look for that DC Universe logo. Ton of books will do well if you find it with those. So that's one to keep an eye out for in particular. So that's kind of a fun little extra nugget for you to hunt for outside of the first appearance of Natasha Irons. Look for the DC version of this book. But you can also see if you want the regular, $1.25, $1.19, $1.79. It's basically $1 online. It's not an expensive book, nor do I think it should be. I'm just pointing it out that, again, this is the first appearance of the character if you want to go and find it. But definitely look for the DC Universe variant. But if you want to see when she first actually becomes the superhero character of Steel, then you got to wait a long ways, all the way until 2003 for Action Comics number 806. Interesting run with the art style for Superman at the time. I think this was the Joe Kelly run with Pascal Ferry. I don't know. Anyway, in this, she gets handed down the John Henry Irons his hammer, but then I don't know how this equates to her then getting like a mech gear armor, but she does. She gets all steeled up and becomes a superhero right after this. I mean, not right after this, in this issue. So here it is, her getting the mantle, I guess, handed down to her, and then by the end of the issue, she's like a kaiju-sized Mecha Godzilla type character with a huge hammer. But then she's also like normal size. I don't know. It's comics, man. We want me to tell you. But this book, generally considered her first appearance, I guess, as Steel, it's $5 to $12, $13 copies have sold for. Listings, $3, $7, $12. You can see, a bit inconsistent, but you can make a couple of bucks. If you find it for $1, maybe you can get over 10. It's not bad, right? But with that, there's just a couple fun books that you can find based off of the DC titles a couple of the DC titles I read this week. So go give them a look-see, see what you can find just for kind of fun. If you find any of these things, absolutely tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it when you guys find these books. Because again, I'm kind of doing this more as a fun scavenger hunt style show rather than me try to tell you what about super duper expensive books. Because obviously if a book is expensive, you're going to want to find it for $1. But the chances of that happening these days are they're lesser because shop owners, they check, they do their due diligence. It's not easy to find those books in the cheap boxes. But while you're looking for those big scores in the cheap boxes, this is the extra kind of fun stuff you can put into your pile to kind of round it out and say, well, at least I found 10 books out of the $1 boxes. So, some of this stuff is just for fun and just to read. With that said, any of you out there who haven't tried Whatnot yet, now's your chance. Use the link down below, sign up, and you get yourselves a free $15 by using my link. $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want, no strings attached. You help out the channel, and you also get yourself something nice. So there's really nothing to lose by giving it a try. So if you haven't tried Whatnot yet before, give it a look-see and sign up and get that free $15. Now, with that said, let's go on over to the world of Marvel and take a look at a couple of titles there. I had to reach for some oddball titles this week because, the mains, the Amazing Spider-Mans and Uncanny X-Men's, there's nothing really I can tell you about in there that kind of tied into anything fun. So I had to go all the way down to TVA number 2. Granted, I probably could have talked about this character in TVA number 1, but I don't think I covered number 1. So we're going to talk about him in number 2 because he's part of the squad. And that is this guy right here. Probably doesn't look familiar just by looking at this image because I kind of cleaned up his style. He doesn't so much look like his dad, but this is the character of Jimmy Hudson, who is one of the kids, one of the offspring of Wolverine. Yeah, and he was a Wolverine for a time back in Ultimate X, Ultimate Universe side of things, etc. But here, that's what we're going to get to. Jimmy Hudson. So the first time we saw Jimmy Hudson, the character, was in Ultimate X back in 2010. So seems like it was longer ago, but it was only apparently it was only 15 years that Ultimate X came out. But there we go. There's Jimmy Hudson. First, he's right on the cover. There's multiple covers of this book as well, but the storyline obviously follows and focuses in on him for a bit. And Kitty Pryde comes recruiting him and saying, "Hey, here's your dad." Was Logan basically? Cool. This book got hot for a little while. I don't know why people were expecting something to come of this character and his return into the Marvel Universe, because he did show up, and we'll get to that in a second. But the book, if you can find it, depending on the cover too, you might make a bit more than others. But you can still see it does all right. $7, $10. Some listings, 5 to 13. Again, you're not going to get rich, but still kind of stuff you can fun. Kind of fun book to go and dig for and find. And like I said, there are multiple versions. I think there's a foil version of this one as well. Other covers to look for too. I think there's a second print even. It's fun stuff for you to go and dig for. Now, that said, he eventually, this is the Ultimate Universe. You remember how things kind of melded in a messy kind of way, but somehow, I don't remember how. To be honest, I don't remember how this ended up happening, but I do remember back in the a couple of years ago, the X-Men crossed over with Venom for an event that I really didn't care much about, and I still don't care all that much about it, but it happened. And with that, we got this character called Poison, who is, yep, it's Jimmy Hudson. He got a symbiote, so they try to make him unique by making him a symbiote Wolverine-type character, and it, I don't know, really hasn't done much for his profile. But hey, he's in the TVA now, so maybe. Plus, the TVA is also dealing with other universes and whatnot. So, hey, who knows? Who knows what could happen here? But anyway, the character of Poison first showed up in that little crossover I talked about between Venom and X-Men. I think it was X-Men Blue. Yep. X-Men Blue, number 29, is where we first see this new character of Poison. So, was it? Oh, 2018. So, June 2018. It was a while ago. But here we go. We got all this stuff. She's going to his brain, and then you see good times, and then you see the symbiote kind of coming out, and he fights the team as Poison. All right, cool. With that, this book is super cheap. You could find this out there for basically nothing. Look, a copy sold at auction for 69 cents. $4.95. Another copy sold for. Listings, my comic shop has it up for $2.70, $5, $4. It's cover price and less, realistically. So if you want to go and dig for it, could be fun. Who knows? Who knows? We're going to see any more of Poison outside. Well, then again, it's TVA. Who knows? Maybe he continues on and becomes a main part of this team, because he's on the lineup. He's in the front page description of the whole team. So he apparently should be staying around for a while, but who knows? All right, with that said, another book we want to look at over at Marvel is Iron Man number 4. Not loving this run of Iron Man. I don't like this tired idea of we'll take his money away, take his company away, and let's see what Tony does. We've done this before. But anyway, that's what's going on here. And in that, we got a Scarlet Witch, guest starring here, but we're not talking about that. There's actually a few characters that popped up in here that I want to take a look at, and one of them is from the old Marvel TV side of things. You remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I actually liked it. It was a decent show for being a TV show that was on, a network channel. It wasn't great per se. It had its faults, but it had a lot to like. I like the characters and some of the characterization, some of the interactions and their interplay with each other. But here we have the Cavalry, Melinda May. So, boom. She first showed up, again, on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, but then we eventually got her in the comics. She even got her own little spin-off one-shot explaining why they call her the Cavalry. But she first showed up in comics in that first run that was kind of inspired by the TV show. So it wasn't really adapting the show, it was inspired by. So, yeah. December 2014, Coulson and his team, and it's most of their first, but not Coulson, because we know Cheese showed up in that Battle Scars book. But you got like Fitz and Simmons and like Melinda May, like those characters are first showing up here. But not like Daisy. We saw Daisy before. Quake appeared way back in Secret War. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Melinda May, the cavalry. She shows up here first. And yes, she's on the cover, but also obviously she's in the book too with the team. They're all wearing their shield outfits because they're shield agents. So they got their standard blue and whites on. Now, this book, it's kind of a lot of covers. There's trade paperbacks to go and sort through, a lot of things to kind of dig through. But yeah, copies could sell for as much as $10. But copies are really listed more closer to $3. So it's covering less. Again, it's a book you can go dig for. Just keep an eye out for it. Fun little thing. And like I said, it's a character that transcended the show. Like she became something a little bit more. Now, in addition to her, inside the comic, this Iron Man 4, we find some other former S.H.I.E.L.D. agents kind of popping up here in the form of this Agent 33. So I'm not Agent 33 anymore. You're not the cavalry, yada, yada. Anyway, Agent 33 has been around a while, going back to the 90s. Cool sunglasses, got the blonde ponytail thing going on. Probably you won't even remember this title because I don't even remember this title. But there was a 3-issue mini, Hercules and the Heart of Chaos, 1997. She first appeared in this first issue here. That's actually her straight down below, I believe. But she's also in the guts of this book as well. And you can see her standing here back here behind. Actually, it might not be her. That might be somebody else. Anyway, that's her. Harry Cleason, also known as Hercules, blah, 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 blah. This is a Special Agent DePaul, Agents 33 and 72, yada, yada. Minor S.H.I.E.L.D. character, but still, it's just a fun thing to go and dig for, right? Not everything has to be super duper important for you to go and pick it up. Why not? Hercules and the Heart of Chaos, #1. $2 a copy of #1 sold for, or $7 and change for all three. Get the whole mini for $7. Not bad. Individual copies listed for as cheap as $2 and as expensive as $8. Again, you're not going to get rich. It's just a fun book to go and dig for. And then if you finish reading that Iron Man issue, at the end of it, we see another character we haven't seen in some time, and that is this character here. She's standing in front of a Sentinel. I had to trim it down. Riri was in here too, Ironheart, and Lucia von Bardas. Who is that, you might ask? Well, if you don't remember, Lucia von Bardas, if I'm saying her name even close to correctly, was once Prime Minister of Latveria, right? I think it's it's where Doom's from, right? That's where she was from. So she was the former Prime Minister of Latveria, Doom's home country. Then the Von should have tipped you off, Victor Von Doom. But she was once there, again, the Prime Minister way back in that underrated miniseries by Brian Michael Bendis, and because it had Delato interiors. Like, I think a lot of people forget about this. And I mentioned it before because of Daisy Quake. She first appears in issue 2 of this run, but it's a 5-issue mini. People ignore it because it's not Secret Wars that you know from the 80s or the 2015 one. This is Secret War without the S. It's more of a espionage covert thing. It was a fun little read, and it's very, very cheap. It's got shiny foil on it. If you can find it, there's second prints, I believe, for a couple of the issues. And like I said, Daisy Quake Johnson shows up in issue 2, but in issue 1, we're introduced to Lucia von Bardas, the elected Prime Minister of Latveria. And like I said, here, this is Delato interiors. You don't get to see that all often, right? So, I don't know. If you haven't given this one a read, go pick them up and give them a read. Because, like I said, it's not bad. And you can find them. And you can find them for cheap. Look, here. I couldn't even find individual sales of #1. I could only find the 5-issue mini for $10, $9.54, or $6 for the complete set. $6 for all 5 issues. That Daisy Quake Johnson book used to be worth a little bit on its own, but these days, not so much. Granted, the random ask out there is looking for $3 or as much as $10, but that doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. So if you find this for $1, don't expect to get $10 out of it, but you never know. You might. Somebody's out there trying, and if they get it, maybe you do too. But with that said, we're going to go on to our next slide, which is BCW. You got to get your bags and boards. You got to get your short boxes and long boxes, all those things that keep your collectibles safe. You hate spending that money on it. So while you're spending the money, might as well save some money. So use my link and the code RENA10. Get yourselves 10% off your entire order over at BCW, because you got to spend the money. You might as well save some while you do it. Just, I mean, why not? There's no reason not to. So if you're already spending a few bucks buying your bags and boards, etc., save some money. So use that 10% off code RENA10. Save yourself some money. And again, you help out the channel and you save yourself a few bucks. So again, what do you got to lose? With that said, for our final bit here before we wrap up for the day, we're going to look at rumor. So there's a rumor floating around this past week that Marvel might be adapting a couple of projects into animated features, animated series, animated movies, apparently. So, two groups of characters that they're considering for animated movie treatment are here. One of which, as you can see here in the picture, if you didn't guess, this is Kid Kaiju. So you got Kaiju and all those monsters Unleashed. This is going back to like 2016, 2017 time. Yeah, it's a fun idea. And I mean, who doesn't like a Kaiju? I mean, I'm a big Godzilla fan, so it's fun. So this idea of it's Kid Kaiju, he showed up first in Totally Awesome Hulk #3. Unnamed kind of first appearance. It's almost like a cameo. We'll give it that. And then he kind of comes back later, and we'll see him again in those Monsters Unleashed titles. But Totally Awesome Hulk #3. We got Lady Hellbender here too. Fin Fang Foom, can't go wrong there. But inside this, we've got our little guy here, Kid Kaiju, playing with the action and drawing it all up there on his little desk. That said, this book used to be a thing as well. There are incentive variants. There's a 1 in 20. That's pretty cool, but Michael Cho. There's a 1 in 25 where he's skateboarding. I don't love that one so much, but this book used to be worth a few bucks. Even this one used to be easy 10 to 15 bucks. These days, not so much. You'll still see the occasional look, $10, but by and large, it's closer to the 4 and 5 right now. Just not a lot of people looking for the Kid Kaiju these days, but that could change. If they adapt this, people will go back to this. Or if that rumor gets confirmed as being true, you know how the market works. People will flood back to this. It'll spike again and then drop off as people forget about it. You just got to ride the wave. With that said, copies listed are only about $4 because, like I said, that's where it is these days. It was higher, as I've mentioned. I know you guys probably remember it when it was like a $10 to $15 book, easy. And then the 1 in 25 and the 1 in 20 still out there. Yeah, just something to keep an eye out for. With that, that's one of the projects they're talking about doing as an animated feature. The other is another one that's been talked about for a while now, and that is Power Pack. I was never a big Power Pack fan, but hey, there they are. I know you see this book all the time when you're flipping through boxes. Granted, copies might be beat, but who knows? You might find a decent one if you go out there digging, because they made a lot of these. They were trying to really build up on this idea of this little kid squad Power Pack, but yeah. Issue 1, May 1984. I don't need to do any more, explanation. You guys know Power Pack, right? But inside this, I mean, they've even redone them a couple of times over the years. But this is the OG book. It's still around $10 if you could find a decent copy of #1. And then listings could be as cheap as $5, and they could easily go up as high as 20. So I know I've seen this plenty of times out there in the flea market boxes, etc., because this is just that sort of 80s overstock that we find plenty of, because they just made a lot. Back in the day, they made more copies than you might be aware of. Comics were different than they are now. Now it's more of a niche hobby. Back then, they were all over the place. Comics were just in, your 7-Elevens, your supermarkets. They were all over the place. Now, not so much. But with that all said, have some fun out there digging this weekend. And thank you for stopping by and checking this out. I appreciate all the support. These are just a few books. I wasn't even planning on doing this show again. I was going to skip it and try a new show in this time slot. I was going to give you a new show based off of an idea that I've been kicking around for a while, and then reaffirmed by one of you viewers out there said I should do it. So I decided to do it. But I had some extra time this afternoon, so I put this together to keep you dollar bin digging today, and I will give you that new show idea probably on Saturday, because Saturday night special, the boys won't be live this weekend, so they're taking the weekend off. So I'll give you that show then. So with that said, come back tomorrow for the Hot 10, and I'll see you all soon with some more content. All right, later.